A verse called Biography, any man's biography. He was and educated and became, residing and remaining and intending. Then on became in and again, and later again. He still is and hopes and intends and may, but is certain to one day. The next is an autobiography, any man's. I am newborn. I want to suck sweet and sing and eat and laugh and run and fuck and feel secure and own my own home and receive the recognition due to a man in my position and not have nobody to care for me and not be lonely and die. A book about, a poem about a young child who is not yet 1 year old, is still being breastfed, but is also being taught to eat like a decent human being with a spoon. He doesn't realize the purpose of the spoon. He finds it quite an interesting thing to wave about, but he'll learn in time. He holds a spoon, certain of what he holds, nothing more solid certain than his spoon, fat clenching fist and hard thing clenched the same, no separation between noun and noun. He waves the spoon, certain of what he waves, lost in the rhythm of the waving weight. The small face is remote and yet intent. To feel, think, dream, and do are all the same. No separation between verb and verb. He drinks his mother. Sweetness is a tree whose branches swing and feed him. Mother, mouth, sweet, and drinking are the same. No separation between noun and verb. You shall not makes him know he is not God, dividing think from feel and dream from do, creating adjectives like good and bad, pronouns like you and me and mine and those, till home is a place minced into tiny words, the spoon a perilous thing no longer his, and food the bait of an enormous trap he hardly will accept as universe. A poem about marriage, which is actually a description of a well-known carving of an Egyptian pharaoh, Mykerinos, and his wife standing in a pose side by side. I think it's in the British Museum. The point is, he seems to be walking forward like this. She's beside him, standing with one hand back on his off shoulder, but holding his wrist. And anyway, it's called Married. With gravity that holds all possible love, a king and queen go gravely side by side. His fists are lightly clenched beside his thighs. She presses his shoulder and she holds his wrist, like a strong mother guiding her son's feet, like a meek daughter clinging to her guide. The sculptor only noticed in these two the things a couple feel when most alone, the solitude of being me and you, two feeling hearts in towers of rocking bone. Not sad to live, they advance without fear to an end they cannot see. Love is an evil god, the unlovely say. She will not warm or kiss or serve us. She does not deserve us. And so they turn to words and wealth and war and other murderous games which losers play. The unlovely are special people. They only unite to kill. They build big pedestals to justify standing apart. But love is the ardor of a gentle mind. Lovers give by allowing, and their taking is kind. It is easy to know the others. We are shrill. Saying undoes me, seeing will not let do. Things numb the hands, words deafen, visions blind. What the mind grasps stuns and eludes the mind. To say, see, think, and feel are all ways of not having you. I don't sleep well away from you. I don't exercise enough. I'm morose. I'm a bore. Nobody says how well I look anymore. What exercise, what deep sleep you gave. What delight, what loud exclamations. I am shocked that this is no longer true, but loving the delight you unlocked in me, I did not unlock you. If love had made both of us equally free, it would never have stopped. Things begin to cheer up. The angel said, his house is burning. Feeling hot, he awoke. No smell of smoke, no flame, but all was well. The room seemed the same, but was not. He had locked himself into home like a child in a fright. It felt like jail, himself the governor. Now, wearing a temporary look, it warms him and is bright. Burning bright, while bright outside, the sun, white clouds, and reddening trees burn. Home is a place we have to leave. Love it, but don't return. A lyrical hymn. Who is all fire and wings and hearts and seed, has never ended, yet always starts afresh when the wind changes? Who gave and changes everything we need? Who, with all water, weather, ground, and spaces, and many-coloured eyes of stone, leaf, star, won't let us rest in them, but instead drops dead, stands attentive, raves and races? Who makes all we joyfully, painfully love march away, and will one day help us out in a blink before we are at last wise, with a present too suddenly big to hold, think of, or see, or say? The grave colours of earth brighten toward an open book of light, unstained by word. These were largely, these were mainly autobiographical, emotional poems. I called it old negatives because after writing them I didn't think I'd be writing any more, because they were all mainly about love passing away. And but it came back, and then winter housekeeping. In weather like this, the homeless can hardly live, and every year sees more of them, none of them me. I give to beggars, of course, though charity prolongs their pain. So do market forces. Strong brains who tackle problems of this kind need the protection of a cosy home, or several. I manage with only two, and love these freezing, slushy Glasgow streets, at home in bed here, holding and held by you. Be up, be out, be off, I to me say, so softly there is no need to obey. Warm smoothness is a property of you, enjoying which undoes all need to do. Warm smoothness is a property of we who lie enjoying it, content to be. You'll notice there's a hint of politics at the start of what I've just read. Started doing verse about that, more verses about that. Here's an old-fashioned one about old-fashioned dictators. Needing attention, wanting to please or hurt, each strove to make his life a splendid play like actor-managers in Victoria's day, with deep plots, loud speeches, bloodshed, Vast crowds of extras and only one main part. Nations maddened by injustices were the raw materials of their art. And, wait a moment. Censor. Oh, yes. This is about a more recent form of dictatorship, the one that called itself communist in Russia. It's called, after the collapse of the thing, A Censor Regrets. Each day lays down more past to be digested, blended into memory through the agency of sleep and dream. Each poem gives more truth to be digested, blended into history through the ministry of speech and print. Born by a revolution, my regime sprang from words, made history, held it tight, dreaded more truth. Good poets dumbed or died or fled abroad. Only they knew the truths I silenced better than me. My regime died of dull language. I cannot now give out what I withheld. Our new regime thinks truth cheap, our past irrelevant, and the young agree. Postmodernism, about it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. All things were made by him, light and life that was the light of men. And the light shone in darkness, and the darkness partly understood and lectured on it. Light died before the uncreating Word. Now darkness lectures to darkness upon darkness, and the darkness sees that it is good. This is a kind of contradiction, or I suppose a different view of Genesis, not based on words. Light dawns without commanding, sense precedes understanding, crying, crooning make language, say what gets believed. God who sees all creation good is to be achieved. Pardon? We've run out of time. I've been told there's time for one more poem. I shall disprove that by reciting my longest. It's called Naming Britain. Naming Britain. In 330 BC, when ships always tried to sail within sight of land, at the west exit from Earth's middle sea, "Don't go through" was carved. That small strait led to the ocean that keeps moving its bed, drowning beaches twice between noon and noon, and twice uncovering them, pulled by the moon. To sail by Atlantic coasts was hard without splitting keel and reef or running aground, but possible, as traders from Carthage found, who sailed out with bolts of cloth, returned with tin, carved "Don't go through" to keep competitors in, and stationed warships to make their command obeyed. The galley of Pythias slipped through that blockade. He was a Greek when Greece had markets on every Mediterranean shore, and learned from neighbor nations more techniques than discussed in one language before. Greeks thought all knowledge theirs to explore, enlarge, record for their extrovert civilization, a thought that drove Pythias to Atlantic navigation. His boat, propelled by oars and one sail, like those in which Vikings cruised to America, found an archipelago. From a tribe there he took a name for it used in a Greek geography book, a name that Romans spelled Britannia. But during and after the Roman occupation, Britain was never the name of a single nation. Only Wales could claim the old British name when Angles, Saxons, Danes, and Norman French conquered South Britain, warring until they became England. one kingdom which then fought to subjugate every adjacent state. Ireland was the start of her empire oversea. She conquered Wales, but France and Scotland won free. Scots were free till King James got news that he could inherit England's throne too if he lived there, an offer he did not refuse. He went down to London town like many Scots later, and there Britain's chief landlord passed parliamentary acts to make these islands one kingdom, despite contradictory facts. England and Scotland's clergy believed different kinds of Protestant creed. Hating papists was the main point on which they agreed, while Catholic Ireland constantly rebelled against English landlords who bloodily quelled their attempts to reject the South British yoke. How could a Scottish king unite such folk? King James, with the force of English arms, evicted most owners of Ulster farms, gave their lands to Protestant Scots whose immigration diluted the native Catholic population, who never again thought James could trouble his nation. Such overseas meddling brought again and again more and worse centuries of political pain. To gain an empire in which the sun would not set, the English explored, traded, fought, and won mastery of the seas and vast subcontinents, helped by Scots and Irish, whose parliaments were both in the past, but left such outsiders as say in the Empire of Britain, although the USA, hating taxation by London, had broken away. Britain's Postmaster General, to help folks see these islands were one, called Scotland NB, North Britain, and Ireland WB. But West British rebels one Easter day seized Dublin Post Office, raised a tricolour flag, made England's first colony follow the USA by most of it breaking away. Empires end, as did that of Britain and Russia too. Commercial empires remain, promoting war with drug and weapon sales, while parliaments in Ulster, Scotland, Wales cannot prevent the English government sending their troops to fight in distant lands when America's chief war businessman commands. Ulster Protestants may be the last to gladly claim the British name. Britain is still an irregular archipelago to which Pythias came.